Hello, hello, we're back. And this is our very first painting, actual painting in block 2, and first original painting. So I'm just getting my materials reset up. After doing block 1, I basically completely used up all of the like, what is this called? The gray um, paint paper? Canvas paper. There we go. I think that's what it's called. Um, as you can see down there. So I decided to make a new one and just, have a brand new start. So what I did was actually I did a sketch of the image that I wanted to draw on the back side of a previously used canvas. And then now I'm doing the actual, because I didn't really trust my um, drawing abilities. This is the first time I've ever tried to transfer something that I see onto canvas rather than copying an image that the program gave us. So I wanted to do a practice round first and then transfer that over to the actual canvas and then paint that. Um, Actually, I it might have been a little bit of overkill, but it worked out. And another thing too, I realized after I finished painting this is that the proportions that I chose were slightly big. I mean, the cone on top of that ball ended up really close to the top line that I drew for the border. Although later on, actually, the instructors were like, yeah, we don't really care if you have a border or not. I still try to force myself to do a border just to give myself a little extra practice with drawing straight edges. So, anyways, I just pick like a 2 or 3 centimeters from the edge of the canvas, and then I draw the line and then try to keep my painting within that line. And that's what I did for all of block 2, starting with this very first image. So the tip of the cone was actually like almost touching that line, which is not very aesthetically pleasing. I should have shifted everything down or made it a little smaller, but I didn't do my calculations exactly right or something. Or I didn't choose my unit of one measurement the best. Well, I think I was just using the ball as my unit of one measure, which makes everything kind of large. I think I might have also multiplied everything by a factor of 2. So sometimes instead of multiplying by a factor of 2, you can use a factor of like 1.5 or 1.75 or something like that. That might have been a little bit more appropriate. But anyways, so for this very first painting in block 2, we're told to decide on what we want to paint. From this assignment on till the end, that would be assignments 11 through 20, we got to create our own still life setups. And so for the first one, I decided to do something really simple, and that's what we're told to do in the instructions anyway. They say choose something simple, and then they give a few examples in the help desk. Not really help desk, but Evolve has a separate website, a help website where they have questions, like frequently asked questions and answers. Sometimes there are videos. And so in one of these articles, they actually gave a few examples of don't make your image more complex than this. So the very first one, we're starting with just really simple geometric objects. And for someone like me who has zero experience with art or painting, okay, virtually zero experience, at least zero experience with a formal art training program, um, I I know that I don't want to jump ahead and then do something too complicated and then teach myself the wrong things. So I want to follow the instructions as closely as I can. So they said, do something simple. I was like, all right, something simple. We'll do a ball because the ball is the simplest thing you can do. And then a cone and a box, I guess. Because as I mentioned in the previous video, I had issues with boxes when we were on the drawing portion of this block. So I was like, okay, we definitely need to put a box in there. In fact, I challenged myself to try to put something box-like or box-related in every single image, almost every single image. Actually, maybe every single image. I don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, so those are the objects that I chose. And the ball is slightly more complex because it's got these stripes on it. I was using I was basically borrowing my dog's ball. And that's the way it's designed. I didn't have any other ball actually. I later did find this round object. It's not a perfect ball because the bottom is flat, but it's like a lip balm thing that was in the shape of a sphere, almost sphere, but it was too small and it was kind of shiny. So that didn't really work. However, this ball worked pretty well, so I decided to go with this one. for my measuring practice and also for the very first painting. So this like still life painting, it's not like something that you would want to necessarily frame and hang on your walls, but it's for practice. But you still want to try to treat it as if it is a finished painting. That's one of the things that Kevin, the head instructor, or I don't know if you would call him the head instructor, he's the founder of Evolve, something that he said in one of the videos. He said, even though these are homework assignments, you should treat them as if they are final paintings. The more seriously you take these things, the more effort and focus that you put into them, the more you'll learn. So I try to do that with these paintings. If I'm going to be learning this painting stuff, I might as well do the best I can, right? So here we go. We've got some very basic laying down the colors, and then I started laying down the shadows, and then I was like, maybe I should just go object to object. Later, I got some feedback from the instructors who said that I could have made that gradient a little wider. Again, the gradients, I'm always making the gradients too thin. So, especially on that cone, and then later on the ball as I do the gradients here, I could have made these gradients a lot wider. It's a little tricky to do the gradients on the stripes because the stripes are a lot thinner, but it's a good challenge. So I'm actually glad that I chose this subject matter for my very first painting, still life painting. Anyways, these paintings I've sped them up by 10 times. They actually take a long time. I think this one painting took me about 7 hours maybe. That's including setup and cleanup, of course, because I try to be I try not to be wasteful as much as I can, like conserve paper and things like that. But there is a downside to that, because I think I might have clogged up the sink a little bit with washing the paint off of the palettes, the reusable palettes that I've used. So that's a problem that I didn't anticipate. But if you guys are watching this and you're thinking of getting started in oil painting and you're also a newbie like me, that's one thing to consider. You may want to conserve materials like your palette paper. Oh, that's what it's called, not canvas paper, palette paper. Your palette paper and your paints and so on and so forth. But just know that there's a chance you might clog up your sink. You better have a pretty good sink with a pretty wide pipe. And or before you start washing things off, you should wipe it off. Wipe it off with a paper towel and then clean it up with your soap and stuff. I completely did not know this the very first time I tried using a reusable palette, and I just tried to wash all of the paint down the drain, and there was a lot of leftover paint. I had no idea. And then later I asked an instructor what was going on, and they're like, oh yeah, you should wipe it off first. And I was like, oh, that's the secret. Well, anyways, there are all these little things in the art world that you don't even know you don't know until you start doing it, and then you're like, wait, this isn't working, and then you have to go ask somebody who's more experienced, and they're like, oh yeah, you should have done that, and you're like, oh dang, head slapping moment. But anyways, so the only thing that was really not complicated, but a little bit more challenging about this painting, besides nailing the drawing, of course, was also that shadow. The shadow of the ball is a little off. But anyways, the only thing that was a little bit challenging about this painting was the ball, because of the stripes and the gradients, and so on and so forth. But the box is pretty straightforward. We're not doing any reflections and highlights yet, because this is the first actual painting that we're doing for block 2. So we're quote unquote dumbing down our techniques again to just simple gradients, shadows, lights. That's it, because the instructors want us to focus on the new skill that we're trying to develop, which is drawing what we see, proportional drawing, and then continuing to reinforce the fundamental skills of choosing which colors are shadows, which colors are lights, and then doing the gradients in between. So I really appreciate that. It's when you include a new skill into your arsenal, sometimes it does make sense to back off on some of the other skills. Like if you've got skills 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you start with skill 1, and then when you get good at skill 1, you add on skill 2, and then you add on skill 3, and then maybe, let's say, if you're adding on skill 4, and skill 4 is rather challenging, it's going to take a lot of brain space, you might let go of skill 3 and just focus on 1, 2, and 4. And that's kind of the design of the curriculum for Evolve, and I really appreciate that. So we're not doing any highlights or reflections here, just simple shadows, lights, gradients, straight edges, that's it. And here you can really see the tip of that cone is really poking into the top of the canvas. I should have made that a little thicker, maybe less of a white space at the top. But yeah, I mean, it's literally right up there. So in terms of balance, that's not the best thing. I shouldn't have done that. That's one of the tricky things too about this painting, is like centering it just right. Anyways, there you go. That is the first painting for our block 2, and continue to enjoy and make beautiful things, and I will see you in the next video.